Hi math friends, today we're looking at uses of negative numbers. One way that we use them is we think of the word opposites. So I think of like the opposite of 10. In other words, that would be negative 10. If I think of the opposite of negative 10, well, that would be positive 10. Notice how we don't put a sign on the positives. If you want to put a plus sign, you can to help you denote that, but you don't need to because we understand 10 is a positive 10. Some things that might be tricky is if we think of the opposite of an opposite. So if I think of the opposite of 5, so the opposite of 5 would be negative 5, but then if we do the opposite again, we get back to 5. The opposite of 0. 0 is neither positive nor negative, so it would just be 0. Let's look at temperature too. We know that temperatures can be measured in positives and negatives. When we hear those things about like the temperature is negative 20, it means that that's 20 below 0. So you'll hear both of those actually. So like negative 20 can be read as 20 below 0. These are common things that we hear a lot, so we need to be aware of them. We need to also note that like if I look at like 20 degrees and I compare that to negative 20 degrees, see how these are counting by tens? 20 degrees, a lot larger or warmer than negative 20 degrees. Also, if I count from here from the bottom up, 10, 20, 30, 40. This is 40 degrees warmer than negative 20 degrees. So that's a significant change. And just by having that, the positive or the negative. So 20 degrees, negative 20 degrees. Let's say you were actually trying to write 20 degrees, but you put a negative in front of it, or you forget to put a negative in front of the 20. There's a 40-degree difference there. Let's look at some other opposites on here too. Let's look at negative 50 and positive 50. Let's count there. So that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. There's a 100-degree difference between negative 50 degrees and positive 50 degrees. So we have to be really careful with how we label our positives and negatives here. When we look at money, there's something that will appear on bank statements. If you use an app, it might show it like this as well. But you'll see that if I have a balance here and it's just 159, that would be a positive number. That would mean like you added 159 or you have 159. If you see a balance and you have a parentheses here, that would be a negative number. That would mean that your balance is below 0. It could also mean that much money was taken out of the account. So let's just go through these together here. 231 just as itself, positive. 456 with in parentheses, that means that that's a negative balance. Okay, next one, parentheses, negative balance, and then the rest here do not have parentheses, so these are all positive balances. Obviously, for a bank account, you want that to be positive. You don't want to actually owe the bank any money. As you go through, though, you will be spending and adding money to your bank account as you go on. When we compare numbers, so when I think of like 5 and negative 5, if I'm comparing them, saying which one is larger, we're going to use the greater than symbol here because 5 would be greater than negative 5. Be careful if you write it the other way. If I write negative 5 and then 5 here, 5 is larger than negative 5. It might seem simple when there's a positive and a negative number. When there's 0 in a number though, like 0 and 4, or 0 and negative 4, let's look at this one. Which one's larger, 0 or 4? If I have 0, I like to think of money. If I have $0 or if I have $4, having $4 is better. If I have $0 or if I have -4, like I owe somebody money, it would be better to have $0 then. All right. The other one that might be confusing is when we have two different negative numbers, like -10 and -3. It might be helpful to think of it as temperature or as money. So if I'm looking at temperature, this would be closer to 0. If I think of money, if I owe somebody $10 or if I owe somebody $3, this one is actually greater. Even though 10 is bigger than 3, 10 is more left or more further down from 0 than 3. All right, the last one we're looking at today is plotting ordered pairs. So we're going to start seeing the coordinate plane like this where there's 4 quadrants. So there's not just positive numbers, now there's negative numbers here. So if I plot the point 10, comma, -2. So remember, x goes first and then y. So I need to go to the right 10. So I start at the origin. So I'm going to go right 10. And then I have -2, so I go down 2. So that's where that one would plot. Let's look at a couple more. We'll use different colors for these as well. Let's see, we have -3 and 5. So remember we start at the origin, and I'm going to go -3 first. So I go left 3, and then +5 next. So I go up 5, and I'll plot that right there in red. All right. Remember, it's always x, y, so I move left or right, and then I move up or down. Let's look at one more. We'll change the color of that again. We'll say -4, -1. So if I want to plot that one, again, start at the origin, 0, 0, and then I move left 4 because it's -4, and then -1 I move down 1. And that's where I would plot that one. So these are all uses of negative numbers that we're going to see. Some might be simpler than others, but we need to know how to do all of them.